know, it used to be like you could see the whole, you could see the road. I don't know how come it is so low now. No, it cannot. Just gonna be. I don't understand why it's just showing the dashboard. It's showing me that. No. Why it's just showing the dashboard? I have no idea. I can't have it well. But hello guys, how is everybody doing? Happy Saturday evening. Happy Saturday evening to everybody. Guys, we're gonna have a little conversation here this afternoon. Yeah. You know, it's Women's Month, the month of March, and yesterday was International Women's Day. So we got a lot to talk about as women. We have a lot to talk about as the mothers of the earth. We have a lot to talk about as up and coming trendsetters. We have broken glass ceilings, and we are doing way more than was expected of us, or that was assigned to us, coming from the patriarchal society in which we have been socialized. And so we are going to talk a little bit about where we have come from and where we are going as women, and the changes that have occurred over the years in terms of the social changes, the changes that have affected the structure of the family, and the roles, the specific roles that were assigned to women, roles that we have since overturned. We have decided, hey, I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm not going to stay home. I'm not going to stay home and have babies and take care of children and all this. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave the home. I'm going out to work and contribute to the household financially. The babysitter, the nanny, the preschool, wherever it is going to raise these children while I go out to work. Such comments for some, so you can see comments in the chats. Watch a large boy. How you doing, large boy? I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Large boy, we're having a little bit of a discussion here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of the woman and how the changes over time has affected the family and women in general. And first, we're going to talk about women leaving the home, women no longer being homemakers, but going out to work and leaving their children to be raised by nannies and grannies and everybody else except themselves. What has been the implications of such? Well, we have seen where women who have left their children to be raised by other people usually end up with children whose mannerisms are totally opposite of theirs. There are some mothers who are not involved at all. The nanny, the children are attached to the nanny. The nanny wake them up in the morning, the nanny feeds them, whatever the social life they have, the nanny is the one who engages with them, is the one who orchestrates all of this. While mommy is busy.
2 miles, take exit 41 for North Carolina 24, North Carolina 27 toward Albemarle.
Do me a favor, put this in your ears. Since you are watching, let me put it in a where is it? Give me one. Where's the other one? Alright, sorry about that, guys. Okay. Alright, so we can continue talking. So we can continue talking about the mother, the role of the woman, and its implications for women having left their home and working outside the home and leaving some of their children to be raised. Some of them are being raised by themselves because there is no mother in the home when they are leaving out to go to school. There is no mother in the home when they have returned. And oftentimes, by the time they go to sleep, by the time their mother gets home, they are already asleep. So the interaction between these children and their mothers has been minimized. So the children, therefore, don't know, their mother haven't taught them anything. Most of them, what they have learned is from their peers, from TV, from the internet. And then when these children do things that are against the mother's values, the mother say, but I know some areas are, I know some areas if you know better than that. But my question is, how is that child supposed to know better when mommy was never there? Mommy was never there to impart her values to this child. But now that this child is acting in a way that seems right to him based on what he sees on the internet, having developed his own rationale for what's right or wrong based on the internet or his interactions with his peers, mommy says he should know better. Because you see at this point, what this child, the behaviors that this child is exhibiting is not in line with mommy's values. But where was mommy during those formative years when that child really needed to be aware of mommy's values and for it to be instilled in that child? So we have found over the years where even though women say, we no longer want to be, what is it? Yes, $2.79. Say we no longer want to be in the home. There is a price to pay for that. There is a price to pay, and that price for some people has been exponentially high. So I think that the family itself has suffered the most from women no longer being at home to hold the reins of the family, of the children, and raising them in a particular fashion that would be in alignment with the values that have been handed down to her. Now we're going to look at how the far-reaching implications of this from the children who are affected immediately to the generations that come afterwards. Because you see, guys, we can say, oh, it's not that serious. A mother can go to work and still raise her kids, and everybody come out just fine. Everybody is unscathed. There's no big deal. We can always say that because that will make us feel justified in accepting the changes that have occurred in society over the years in regards to mothers going to work and the children being left on their own, and um, most of them basically having raised themselves, and with that they have adopted their own values, and them having adopted their own values means that the older values that mommy held dear, those are really lost in the sauce, if there was any sauce. AG is in the house. AG, how are you doing? What's going on with you, AG? AG, where in the world are you, by the way? Running your mouth and running the streets, huh? Well, it is raining, has been raining since yesterday, since the day before. It has not stopped. So that's what we are working on right now. But anyway, Edgy, we are talking here since it's International Women's Month. Yeah, we are talking about the implications of mothers not being in the home anymore to raise the children. What are we seeing? What is happening today? Somebody says, if I think women should go back to being homemakers and not working in, say, in corporate America, not working outside the home. I don't know. I'm going to emphatically say, heck no. Because number one, we cannot depend on our men to take care of us. And these days, the requirement for taking care of a wife and children is so high. It is so much. It requires so much that no one man will be able to take care of a wife and children all by himself, unless, of course, he is making a bawaku of money. That's how society has become. In the days of our grandparents, when grandma stayed home and she was the homemaker and she took care of the children and a hot meal when grandpa came home and all of that, those days are long gone because back then it was simple living. A lot of people didn't have like electricity, that wasn't a problem. A lot of people did not have running water, that was not a problem. There wasn't any internet, there wasn't any computer, there wasn't any cable. So the requirement for money was lower. Only thing Papa needed a lot of money to do was if he was going to be buying a lot of land. Children wore hand-me-down shoes that where the sides were torn out. The heel was falling off, and it was not a big deal. Children wore hand-me-down clothes that were torn and tattered and darned and patched, and it was not a big deal. Today, you could dare encourage or expect a child to go out in that fashion, because not only would the child be ridiculed, but also as a parent, you run the risk of being charged with child neglect or something of that nature. If your child is out seen outside with a torn shoe, a tattered shirt, or anything like that. So So I'm going to say no to that. I I don't think women, we should reverse course, that is, and have women go back into being housemakers and the men alone working. Another reason why I don't think so is that men these days are not reliable. No, they're not. Men these days are not reliable. Once upon a time, you could you could rely on grandpa to go out and come home. He's coming home with some meat, with some. He's coming home with meat. He's coming home with some provisions from his garden, from his farm. He's coming home with something. Nowadays, you send out that man, he ain't coming back. He just did not come home. And you not see him again. And you are left in the house with the children. Like, what do you do? So men are not reliable anymore. The same way the woman is looking for a man to take care of her, these men out there looking for the same, looking for a man to take care of them. So the entire sphere of values have changed. And with that change comes a lot of consequences. The individual suffers, the family suffers, and society on a whole suffers. So I guess we just have to continue to bear that separation because women are not going back in the house to go sit down. Women are not going back into the house to go sit down and wait on a man to take care of her or to go sit down and be baby makers. No, some women are not even having children until they decide. No longer is there a rush to start a family. There's no longer a rush to start a family. People, because economically, it is encouraged to be economically stable before you start a family. A lot of women are delaying childbearing. People waiting till they're 40 to have a child. 40. People waiting until they're older than 40. Waiting until they have accomplished, and more accomplished before they decide to start a family. And with that delay, it means that we end up with more children who have elderly parents. We end up with more children who, unfortunately, some of them end up getting age-related congenital problems because they were conceived in the latter years of their mother's life. You know, that has happened, unfortunately, to several individuals. But put that aside, AG. Put that aside. And let's talk about the implications of women not having children early. What are the implications of women not having children? And early, that early is subjective. Like early meaning earlier than in their 40s, earlier than after having what they would consider to be financial stability. What are the implications of that? There could be a few. We could talk about a few of them. Like women being lonely. Could that loneliness transfer into anger? Could that loneliness be transferred into irrational behavior? Could that loneliness be transferred in any negative way to society? Could it? I see it. What are you talking about? You know, I know a lot of people will say to a woman who doesn't have children, you know, oh, who's going to take care of you when you are old? Who is going to be there to add joy to your life? And as much as some people might find those questions to be relevant to a woman, we sometimes forget the fact that some women naturally, for reason one reason or another, are not able to have children. So I find it to be irrelevant and most times in bad taste for people to say to somebody, for someone to say, oh, you're gonna die alone, or you're not gonna have anybody to take care of you when you get older, to a woman who doesn't have children. Some people can't have children because that's how they fell into nature's algorithm. They can't have children. And some people choose not to have children for one reason or the other. But me tell you something, guys. We shouldn't use a woman's ability to have children or inability to do so to justify, or really to justify our actions at belittling women or thinking that they are less of a woman if they don't have children. For me, I don't think so. I don't think a woman is less of a woman because she doesn't have children. I don't think so. Or because she can't have children. I mean, also some people are gonna hear me say this, you know. I want to jump on this bandwagon, but I'm going to say, no, you are not a woman. No, you are not. So this statement is not for you. The statement is for women who are women but are unable to have children for whatever reason. I'm not talking about novelty creations. I'm not talking about that. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. So the next thing I'm talking about is, hold on the people, hold on there. All right, I'm back, guys. I am back. Let us continue. Let us continue talking about the implications of women not working, not being in the house anymore, but working outside. Now, society has benefited significantly from women working outside of the home. Yeah, we have had women ascend to being prime ministers. There was Margaret Thatcher of the US, there was Portia Simpson in Jamaica, there was, what was that Filipino lady called? There was, in what's that country called again? Not Pakistan. There have been women rulers all over the world. There have been women leaders, which was something that would have been unheard of 200 years ago. 200 years ago, in the height of the patriarchy, a woman could dare to come out of her house to say run for office. We have seen where biblically, women have attempted to break the glass ceiling, but they have always ended up being suppressed by the men. We saw in the Bible, we saw prophetess Huldah in the Bible. Well, there wasn't much said about her, and that tells you all you need to know, because the fact that she was a woman, and from their standpoint, women are not to be, women couldn't be prophets, and women had a specific role to play in society, and they should not deviate from it. That's what was told to the people. That's how the people were socialized. We saw the Queen Athaliah. Athaliah tried to be the ruler of Israel, and so in order for her to assume that role, there had to not be a man who could, a man to inherit that throne. And so she decided that since it was society's position that her grandchildren are sent to the throne, the only way for her to assume that position would be to assassinate her grandchildren. We saw her rise to being the first queen, they would say, of Israel. That was not going to last, not as their society was at the time. Nowadays, we are more open. We are more open to women having just about any role that a man can have. A president, a prime minister, you name it. A woman can assume just about any role. There are women who are CEOs, and women who are starting companies and running companies, and women who are just doing great things. And then there are the other women. Then there are the other women who now have chosen to continue the tradition of staying home and caring for their children. You know, one thing I was thinking about aging. I kept thinking, you know, whether or not the children who are in these modern day societies, there are some societies, modern day societies like Amish or some other traditional societies, where women are still assuming the role, the role of the homemaker, the childbearer, the cook, all those things. Women are not allowed to work outside the home. Women do not work outside the home. The children have access to their mother 24/7. But it occurred to me to ask whether or not these children, I don't want to use the word better, but do you think that these children, I don't want to say better off. I don't want to say better off, because it is subjective to say what would be considered better off. Yeah, are they more educated? Are they do they exercise more rationality? Are they more reasonable? Are they, for lack of a better word, better human beings? Are they less inclined to being incarcerated? Um, yeah, and that's where my thoughts are going. For the children who are constantly with their mother, their mother's influence is on them more so than the influence of the wider society. What do you all think? Because you know that nowadays the rhetoric that floats around all the time is about the children who are the people who are incarcerated, the people who are prone to crime, people who are really mayhem creators in society, that they are from single family homes, people always say. There are children whose mother did not have adequate influence on their life. And though there are some anomalies to that, there is in fact some truth to it, that many human beings who have gone awry of society and society's laws are individuals who lacked a consistent presence of their mother in their formative years. Y'all think that's true? Or is it just that they are creating this story in order to have us believe that with women having gone outside the home to work, it was such a bad thing. It was such a bad thing for society that now look what we have come to. Look what society has come to by allowing women to no longer stay in the home and be seen and not heard, etc., etc. Was it a bad thing? Was that liberation something that cost us greatly? What do you think?
Well, obviously,
You think it cost us?
it's going to cost us so much. It's not going to be repairable. It's kind of like once you let the snake out the bag.
Uh-huh.
It's not like you're going to retrieve it again. It's even dangerous to try to retrieve it again.
But my question is, do you think that if women went back into the home,
So society, for one, would be much better.
you think so?
Yeah.
Why?
Because one, if you let society raise your kids and then you get up thinking, why is my child acting so weird and different from me? And go, I don't understand why. Well, there's the reason. Your child is being raised by the society, which the society is not generally good. It's generally bad. And that have an effect on the next generation, and it just goes down and down and down until it just leads to chaos.
So you think there are currently negative implications with the woman being, the woman working outside the home, and this will continue to be generational?
It has to be. Yeah, it will. Over time, it'll just get worse and worse and worse. I think women are supposed to be homemakers. They're supposed to raise the kids how they are supposed to be raised, so they can go out in the world and be productive, be moral creatures, and not be a drag on society. But if there's no one at home to direct them, they get direction from Miley Cyrus or some other rapper gangster or whatever. And we see our young girls broken out. We see our young men robbing people and getting incarcerated. Society degrades thus. Not true.
Yeah, you got a point. You might need a sharpener, but you got a point.
It's a very sharp point. Not to
You
mention,
have a
I mean,
point.
when you said like the fathers aren't around because they're not reliable, it's true. They're not as reliable as they used to be, and this probably has the biggest effect on society because a man in the house is more beneficial for raising a girl or a man. A girl needs to see a man, a real man, take care of her of his wife and know how a real man should treat a woman and have that basis. If she doesn't have that, she's gonna go out and she's just gonna get into any relationship with any man and she's not gonna know how to be treated, so she will take anything that comes. Same thing with the man. He doesn't know how to treat a woman, so he just goes out and do whatever he feels like.
But the thing is, what if this man who is in the home, he basically raised himself? What kind of values?
That's right.
Yeah,
It's a generational thing. Like if he doesn't learn how to overcome what he's been through and be the man that his dad was never to him, it's just the generational curse is just gonna continue, and it's just gonna degrade society at large.
I mean, I have a different view because I do not think that women having come out of the home has caused any more harm
Why
than
do you
would
think the
that would have been
previous
caused.
society is better than this
That
generation?
better is subjective. Why do you think previous society is better?
Previous generation, they got locked up less for doing stupid things, for robbing. This generation, we're getting locked up for doing robbing for TikTok views. It's way worse, and it's only gonna get worse. So I don't think that's subjective. I think the previous generation was better than us, and the generation before that was better.
So you think with each generation it's going to get
Yes,
so bad that what?
it's gonna get so bad that it's gonna like normally you can go to a safe neighborhood and feel safe. It's gonna get so bad that safe neighborhoods aren't gonna be safe anymore. You won't feel safe because the disease would have spread everywhere eventually. Maybe not today or tomorrow, maybe not in 50 years, but it will eventually happen. Eventually. So you better raise your
So
kids.
what do you think would be a good solution?
Well, we have to start at the head first, and then everything will follow. So we have to start by rebuilding the men. There must be actual men, real men, back into society. We need more strong men, more men that are, value their word, morals. And once we start there, we can work on the woman and then we can work on the kids. Because if you notice in the Bible, the devil didn't go to Adam. He went to Eve because she was weaker. Eve never saw God create anything. So the devil knew he could go to Eve and say, come on, don't listen to God. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He couldn't fool Adam. Adam won't be fooled. And then once it starts there, it's just a domino effect after that. So let's start by rebuilding the man.
All right, you got a great point. Let's start by rebuilding the men. Oh Lord, that's an arduous task there to rebuild the men of society. How are we gonna do that?
I think it's simple. People need to know that there is a God and he's the solution. God is the solution. I don't think some of
But it's not like God been anywhere. He's always been.
yeah, but when I say God is the solution, I'm not talking about God coming down and solving our issues. I'm talking about we listen to that God. If he says love your neighbor as yourself, then you love your neighbor as yourself.
But we've been doing this for generations, and that hasn't. All this love your neighbor as yourself, all this stuff. But that
People clearly hasn't been following it. If we actually exercise that, They wouldn't need, like, why does the U.S. spend billions on defense? Because we don't love our neighbors. Because if we actually love our neighbors, we wouldn't need to defend ourselves from our neighbors, right?
But the thing is,
So we don't actually practice it. We say, yeah, but we actually don't practice love your neighbor as yourself.
well, in this day and age, there can be no love your neighbor as yourself because the Bible is telling you to love your neighbor as yourself. In the same Bible, you don't hear the prophet them say, God tell them say, to slay their neighbor.
Yeah.
So how they were telling them, preaching to them to love their neighbor as themselves, but at the same time was telling them that if their neighbor don't agree with them. Both. I haven't gone to find the New Testament yet, but in the Old Testament, when they said that their God told them that they should destroy, like he would destroy, say, Edom. And he said he hated Edom with a perfect hatred and he would destroy them.
Why did he hate them?
Why would he hate them?
Why wouldn't?
Why should he hate them? Because Edom was the descendants of Esau.
Yeah. God is not a respecter of persons. What happened when David sinned and must be. Remember what happened?
Who?
David. When he transgressed God's law, even though he was a man after God's own heart. Remember what happened to him after he stole a man's wife?
What happened to him? What happened to him?
God said, because you've done this, he's gonna kill your child. So that's what happened. David was crying and begging God to save the child. And then God was like, no, you did evil. I'm going to punish you. That was one of the punishment he gave David.
How much that child you on the line?
I don't remember, but it was a little child. And he
I knew one of his punishment was that he was going to not build the temple.
That too. And his heart was set towards building the temple.
His heart was set towards, boy, he had all his mind on building that temple.
Because he transgressed God's laws.
God said he's not going to make him build the temple. What he's going to do, though, all David ended up doing was collecting all the cedar, the finest fur, the finest linen, the finest of everything, the finest gold and silver and brass and everything for the kingdom, for the temple, but never got to build it.
That's what happens when you transgress. God will punish you, no matter, even if he favors you.
See, where Auntie said this to the son, that's gonna be a hard nut to crack. I bet I'm his third nut, hard one to crack. The same son he got with Bathsheba. Who was that son he got with Bathsheba? No, Solomon?
I think Bathsheba was Uriah's wife.
Yes, Bathsheba was Uriah's wife.
It's funny. It's funny that happened. You know, I kind of disappointed in her too. She's also one to be blamed. I mean, she's married. Why you? I mean, I know David is a king. I know he looks good. I know he's like, you know.
But the thing is, why would you want to blame her?
Because it's also on you. Why you're cheating on your husband?
But that's the king who called her. It's not.
No matter. She shouldn't have cheated on her husband.
But imagine the king call you.
Me no business.
If the
Me
king,
make a promise to my wife. She was not a woman of great character. She was beautiful, but she was not a woman after God's heart. That you can tell. I think a good woman would say, no, that's my man. I don't care if you're the king.
but if she did that, don't you see how
It
they would
doesn't
have stoned her?
get stoned. I've seen a lot of other people in the Bible when they stand for their own values, what they know is right. Yeah, they may get punished, they may get killed, but they were always praised for their great courage and their bravery.
Then nobody don't want to praise when they dead.
Yeah, but no, but like, is it better to violate your conscience? Like, why would you go along with something you don't believe? Just to protect your own self. That's a person of weak character, and we don't need more people of weak character. We need strong people. Men and women with morals. Stand up, stand firm on what they believe.
But the thing is, read this something. Read it alone now.
She didn't cheat on her husband. He was the king, and
He sent to fetch her.
right, he still cheated.
It's not like
She didn't have to lay down with him.
What should she have done? As I said, it's the king.
Because I was reading this other story when I forgot who it was, but it was a brother and sister, and he raped her, and she screamed, and then after that, he didn't love her anymore, and she was like, "Don't throw me out" or something like this. Because, yeah, when it was brothers and sisters, I forgot the whole. It was actually quite interesting.
You gotta tell me that story because I gotta go find it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. She was better than Bathsheba. She was more of a woman of character. She didn't go along with it. He had to force her to have sex with her.
All right, you don't have to be so graphic. You don't have to be so.
That was a graphic.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to say all of that. You could just say to be with her. You could have simply say.
No, her.
Oh no. To be with her. You don't have to drop the word there. Oh jeez. Yeah. Sure. Oh. But me remember that story there.
It's in,
which book is that story?
I think it's in maybe the Kings.
Alright, man, we'll go back because the Kings do have a lot of stories, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to the Kings and read some more. Let me tell you, say, women of today, women of today who have worked outside of the home. You think so because them are work outside of the home, they do not have any, they have lost interest in homemaking and husband and having children.
I think it
Do you
depends.
see? That's the story of Tamar. Oh, that's the story of Tamar, David's daughter.
Yeah.
What did happen to she, Cad?
She got raped by her brother. And then the other brother killed that brother.
Oh yeah, I remember that story. Oh, in a second Samuel. Okay.
Yep.
Second Samuel. I forgot to go read it as soon as me reach home. Me I go read it.
Very interesting story. A lot of controversy,
Yeah, we know the Bible has got a lot of controversy, you know.
which is
That's
good.
what,
That's how you know it's true because it doesn't sugarcoat nothing.
what do you mean by it's true?
It doesn't sugarcoat it. It tells you exactly what
I
happened.
don't I don't I don't think I don't think you can just get up and say, oh well, whatever in the Bible is true. I kinda object to that. Because if somebody is writing what they believe they saw, what they believe they heard,
No,
what they
you don't
believe.
believe what you see. You see what you write down what you see. You don't believe you
Remember,
see.
a lot
I
of these
see
things
trees right now.
that the people write down, they claim to have seen in their dreams. Now, I can get up and tell you that I saw something in my dream. There's no way for you
That
to
could not
verify.
be true. It depends on what you're claiming. If you said you saw a really nice house in your dream and you wrote about it, okay, it's true you saw a house. I can't verify that, but what's your claim? Are you claiming that this house is the best house in the world? Okay. How do we verify that and check that out? Is it just based on the claim? The claim of the Bible is it's a spiritual book? It's a
Why you
historical
say
book?
it's a spiritual book?
Well, it talks about miracles and or even just a history book, even though it writes down history pretty well. If you study some Egyptian hieroglyphs, you can see the Bible is telling the truth on some of these historical events, like when the famine in Egypt happened. We found this great grain bin in Egypt. I'm not sure if they preserved it, but
A great bin?
yeah, you know how it says they gathered the grain for the famine. There was a giant grain bin of
There had
sorts.
to have been a giant great grain bin because um, remember when the famine was going on, they fed, they were able to feed the people with grain for
Long time.
like 7 years, and lots of people were coming from different places to buy grain. So
And I think Joseph wasn't Joseph. It was Joseph. That was the second in command in Egypt. He changed his name. Um, he has been deified in the Egyptian culture or in the Egyptian myth, but his name is still there. It's not Joseph anymore, but it's like an Egyptian like Imhotep or something like this, but it's a different name. But if you read what he did, you can see that it was Joseph, a man that was really smart. That
Joseph, when he sent to call his family,
yeah, you know how he was second.
yes, that he was after he was sold into slavery, he rose up in the Pharaoh's house to become one of the most respected people
Yeah.
in the Pharaoh's house. And then when the famine came, and he know that his family in was it Canaan? His family in Canaan must have been suffering and not being able to find food, and there was so much food in Egypt. He sent to get them, and the whole tribe of them came down.
And dwelt in the land of Goshen.
Yeah, they came down. Well, it was afterwards that they ended up going to Goshen, because he had implored the There are trails and stuff. Next thing, beer in the field, go eat them.
Beer.
Beer as in beer. B-E-R.
Well, I would hope so. It's not PER. What the heck?
Internet is acting up. Okay, now we are back online. So my question though is, are you saying then that the Bible does not support women going out of the home to work? Is that what you're saying?
I think the Bible is more or less silent on that. However, it does paint a picture of a woman being um, a supporter of the family.
The woman is the backbone of the family.
I wouldn't say that.
Does that hurt a man's feeling for me to say a woman is the backbone?
No, but I wouldn't say a woman is the backbone. I would say a woman is the rib.
The rib.
Yes.
And the man is the backbone.
No. It's there. Adam, Eve was taken from Adam's rib, right?
So they say.
So I think what that is symbolizes they're supposed to stand side by side and command their own. Obviously,
But,
the man
but
is.
hold on. But if a woman and a man is supposed to stand side by side and command their household, why would it be that you don't like the idea then of a woman leaving the household to go to work just like a man go to work?
In today's society, it depends. Like if a woman is totally focused on career building, then they're not worried about or focused on family building, right? And that discombobulates the family like bigly.
What? You're so like the Bible though.
It's not something you can detect immediately because some of the effects are we don't feel it immediately. We don't even notice. So I think if a woman is working because she's trying to support her man because he knows he can't do it by himself in today's society, okay, good. But if she's working just because she wants to progress in the corporate sphere, she's gonna neglect a lot of stuff because if you want to move up in the company, you're gonna have to put time in.
Right.
And time in means time away from the home. And if you're away from the home, you cannot raise your kids properly. It's just impossible. And the household needs to parent it. It's better with two. Like if you have just a woman raising a man, for example, a woman doesn't know how to raise a man. Like she knows how to give him pointers, but he's not going to take it the same way that he would take it from a man. And the same way with a woman. A guy doesn't really know how to raise a woman. So we need both. We can't have, like, men typically are rough, more stern. Women are generally more soft and more gracious. And if you have two of these, you can get a perfect balance of both severity and grace instead of just grace or severity. Because if you have too much of one, you're just not going to be very good at navigating the world. People are just going to, if you're too severe, people are just going to see you as a bully, as just a big meanie. If you're too gracious, people are going to see you as fake. Like, why are you so gracious? Are you some kind of weirdo? So you have to have both. So I think God made it like that on purpose. It's supposed to be a balance. God is not the God of confusion. So we have to bring a balance to all. There should be balance.
Got points there. So I'll talk about, you think women who work outside of home therefore are on their way to being condemned for it by God in terms
I
of,
wouldn't say condemned because that's not what makes someone become condemned, but I would say it probably has some neglect to it, probably, but not condemnation. I don't think it's that severe. It's not Jesus didn't come just so the woman should stay in the house. That's not why Jesus came. So it's not about that. But it definitely have some negative effects on the family unit eventually.
but I think if that he didn't want that to happen, they probably would have written it in the commandments that a woman should never go outside her home to work.
Because I don't think so. That's not the focus. Focus is not about a woman or even a man. It's not the focus of the Bible. It's not focused in on any particular group per se. It's just telling man how they should operate in the world that God gave them, how they should live and live towards each other and towards God. Like the first 5 commandments are for how you're supposed to love God, and the rest are for how you're supposed to love men. And I think that's the point. It's just how to love properly. Because this world is already filled with so much hate. We really don't need any more. But I say it would be more beneficial if a woman can just stay at home if she can. Today.
Today's society is not geared towards that.
I know.
Today's society is not built for that.
She can totally do that. If a man can even assist her to stay home, however he can, do that. But I know it's harder. I think that's by design. I don't think that's by accident.
No, I think it is all by design of
Of evil men. Yeah. I think they did that on purpose. Break up the family, it's easier to control. Go straight. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you will not break the other commandment. Love God and love your neighbor. That's the best way to go about life. If you can't do one, if you can't do the first one, you definitely can't do the latter.
If I can't love God, I can't love.
No, you can't. You can only learn love as He gave you in the beginning. Because we're made in the image of God, so we have the imprint of some of His character. So we can love, but we don't know how to love properly. It's only it's a derivative of what real love is, but it's not the actual, real, unadulterated, uncensored love. Because if God is love, who's the best person to tell you how to love?
These are written from people who said that they talk to God, but
so what? The Bible says you have to take the Bible at His word. If it says God is love, how does God demonstrate that? Well, for example, the Bible says God demonstrated His love towards us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us.
yeah.
That's demonstrated. That's demonstrated love.
I don't want to so much talk about this died for you thing, because I haven't gotten there yet in the reading of the Bible, and I just want to stay away from talking about it because I don't want to corrupt my future thoughts with my thoughts from before based on my socialization.
But what if that was a wrong thought?
Well, I will wait until I've read it for myself, and then I will determine whether or not it is based on what I have read and how I get to analyze what I have read. Yeah, that's just how I feel.
But don't read it like, read it for what it is. Don't try to put your own spin into it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's why I don't want to jump ahead. I want to take my time and read it and not and try my best to not use my previous socializations to corrupt these new thoughts that I'm going to get from reading it for myself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to come read it from a point of
want to get it like a brand new babe.
a brand new thing, like a clean slate. I just want to read it as though I'd never heard of it before. I'd never read it before. I've never been socialized into believing any of it before. It's brand new to me. That's what I want.
I see.
Yeah, so that's why I don't talk about it yet. But this thing about women and men, the Bible is a very let me say the Bible depicts the delineation clearly where it assigns roles to men and to women so definitively that even for a woman in the Bible to assume the role of a man, it becomes such a big deal. Such a big deal. The separation, seeing them as two different entities in humanity.
We're the same, but we're different. We have different roles. We have to play.
So you think that we should continue to stick by those traditional roles?
Well, they've been guiding us for so long. What do we want to do? Adapt something that's not been tested and tried by time?
Well, it's being tested and tried now.
And only time will tell if it will be of any good. So what we know, what we've used for millennia, it has taken us this far, and it could take us anywhere we want to go. But if we tear those off of us and adopt new things, new untested things, I think we deserve whatever we get out of that. And I don't think that's going to be a good thing. We're not going to get something good. Freedom is good, but there's such thing as when you're too free, you start doing things that aren't even freedom anymore. You think you're free, but you're actually enslaved, like I was. I thought I was free just because I can do whatever I want, but that's not true. Because then when you try to not do the stuff that you think you're free in, you can't stop. Then how are you free if you can't stop?
So it's like a different kind of enslavement, huh?
Yes. If you don't even see you're going into bondage. So we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. It's not, men aren't really doing this. Wrestling against principalities, against powers. You can't see them, but their effects are real. It's just a matter of time before we really, really feel it. That's a dreadful day. I hope that day never comes. where we feel the effects of us letting evil run rampant in our society without any gates, any bars.
You don't think that they are dealing with the evil characters in society as harshly as they should?
No.
I agree with you. I have to say I agree with you, because I think that people are just running amok
Yeah.
and getting away with it. Sometimes the punishment does not fit the crime. The punishment is too light
Yeah.
compared to the severity of the crime, and because of that, people just figure that, oh well,
I'll get out in 5 years and do it again.
okay, I'll get out in a short time. I'm going to get a short prison term, so I'll just do whatever. Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of the punishments are too mild.
Yep. It's all good and banded to be gracious, but you can't pervert justice. Like, you have to deal it out in its full measure, especially when it's needed.
And especially when the offense,
It's really, really repugnant. Yes. You have to,
you can't just give them a slap on the wrist. You have to really pull them up, drip them up, and all of that. You got a point. I mean, because I say that too all the time, that society as we know it right now would have been a lot better if we treated the people, who are causing mayhem in society, who are eroding the fabric, the social and moral fabric of society, if we treated them with a little stiffer hand. You know what I mean?
they deserve it.
Yeah, but we're letting them get away, and so with each one that gets away, society's values becomes more and more eroded.
Remember that guy grandma always talk about when he did the wrong thing? I think he killed somebody. Yeah, and in Jamaica it was, and she always talks about it. She's like, and when he was on the gallows, his last message was, "Crime doesn't pay." Yeah, and I think that's how it should be. Yeah. People should that should be the thing. Like, should be the message. Crime doesn't pay, guys. So please don't be robbing and killing, please.
But that is the message. People saying that, but the thing is, the punishments are not enough for deterrence. People are seeing the punishment as nothing.
Yeah, you see that.
Yeah, the punishment is not enough to deter them, to deter people who are thinking about committing the act, or for those who have done it already to not do it again.
We need more examples, but then everything is gonna be. People just know how to shift the conversation to something else. It's like, you're picking on me because of my skin color. I'm like, no, you killed somebody. That's why we're picking on you. Oh my God. You know, that's why we had, that's why you're in jail. If you have been a good boy, I don't think you would have been here, man. You have to serve your time, though. You have to face the crime, face your punishment. Yeah.
I agree with you. You got some great points, you know. So if you were say
King?
a king,
Oh yeah. I'd be a very
if you had authority over society and the things that the punishments that are meted out to people, what are some of the punishments you would mete out to people
Well,
to keep them in line?
well, I know I'm not smart. However, I know that Solomon was smart and he had some really good wisdom, and that's where I'd go for a lot of my wisdom. Um, if you stole something, you have to pay it back. Um, you know, and maybe a lashing too, a public beating. If you stole something, you have to pay it back, and then you get a public beating.
All right, let me change some question. Let me change the question. Do you think that the olden days, the punishments that we have
Yes, and no.
these days, what do you think about that?
Let's say yes and no. Because yes, it will keep society in check if the punishment. But then again, sometimes the severity is too genuinely have a repentant heart, but you don't know that if you just act too quickly and you don't give them any time to demonstrate their repentantness. So I say,
So would you value their repentance over their avoidance of committing the crime?
their repentance is a form of them avoiding the crime. They
No, if they have already done the crime and they're repenting, they are going to express remorse and being sorry. Right, and being sorry
Yeah.
for having done the crime. But what about them not doing the